Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced. Health and happiness aren't found in a bottle of prescription pills or with any fad diet. Instead, we can activate your body's natural ability to heal itself. And that is exactly what we're going to do together here. I'm Sarah Teeple, a women's integrative health practitioner, and I blend the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science of functional medicine to help you heal your gut, rebalance your hormones, and calm anxiety naturally. Here I'll teach you the smart, sustainable, personalized, and fun way to use nutrition, herbs, and healthy lifestyle to feel vibrant, energized, and beautiful inside and out. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced, episode number 13, lucky number 13. I'm so happy that you're here. I love you for being here and for taking the time for your mind, body, spirit, health, and approaching it in a natural way. And I gotta say, I am so excited about today's episode. I actually got so kind of hyped up and pumped about it that I was doing the show notes, putting together all the important information, and I ate a little bit of extra dark chocolate while I was doing that. And so my excitement about this topic has probably now going to affect the pace of my speech and just my amount of pumpedness in today's episode. So I'm here, I'm excited, and this is just such an important episode for every human being, but it's especially vital for women and children. So today I'll be sharing with you the number one simple but unexpected thing that you can do to protect yourself and those you love from hormonal issues, estrogen-dependent cancers, and obesity. And this health switch has nothing to do with food, herbs, meditation, or exercise. Nope, it doesn't. It has to do with the sneaky, toxic chemicals that have crept into our everyday existence in this modern world. So today we're going to be focused on something called EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals. And these chemicals are also known by obesogens, the term obesogens, by scientists. So we're going to dive into this very soon. But first I want to ask you, what do the following things have in common? Painful periods, infertility, estrogen-dependent cancers, early menstruation in childhood, and obesity. What do these things have in common? So the answer is, or one main root cause answer, is that they all involve the endocrine system. So this is the definition of the endocrine system as told by the National Environmental Protection Agency. It's made up of all the body's different hormones, regulates all biological processes in the body from conception through adulthood into old age. All biological processes, you guys. This is how important the endocrine system is, including the development of the brain and nervous system, the growth and function of the reproductive system, as well as blood sugar and metabolism. So the endocrine system is supremely important. And those issues that I mentioned earlier, painful periods, infertility, all of these hormonal issues, obesity even, all of these involve hormone dysregulation and specifically processes determined by the endocrine system, a healthy endocrine system or an endocrine system that is dysregulated. And one of the stealth root causes of all these endocrine system dysregulation conditions is environmental toxins. Here is a statistic from the National Institute of Environmental and Health Sciences. Over 80,000 chemicals are used all around us, and most of them have never been tested for safety. Does that sound astounding and unbelievable? Well, it's completely true. And this statistic is from more than 5 years ago. And so you can only imagine how that number has grown. So environmental toxins, this is a real issue, and it's affecting our bodies in tons of different ways. So what can we do about these environmental toxins? The in a nutshell answer is to decrease your overall toxin or chemical load. Decrease your chemical load. And in this episode, I'm going to tell you about which types of chemicals, these environmental chemicals, are the most harmful for your hormones, weight, and cancer risk, where these chemicals are commonly found, what makes them so harmful, aka what scientists and product makers have known for years but never makes the front page news. And most importantly, two simple ways you can decrease your toxic load immediately. This is life-changing stuff. I'll tell you, people come to me all the time because they want to do a food and drink detox. They want to do a digestive detox. But even more importantly than that is detoxifying their environment. And you're going to learn why. So this is so empowering. I love sharing this with you. First off, a quick lesson on endocrine disrupting chemicals. So what are endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs? These are agricultural, industrial, and other chemicals that actually mimic estrogens and other hormones in the body. So this is why they disrupt our endocrine systems, because they mimic what our endocrine system is producing, synthesizing, manufacturing, and metabolizing. So sometimes these chemicals that we're going to talk about, they have an effect known in your body as producing xenoestrogens, or introducing rather xenoestrogens to your body. The prefix xeno on anything indicates foreign. So it's like non-native estrogen, an estrogen that your body has not created, an estrogen that your body does not recognize and know what to do with. And that is why they're so harmful, because they not only dysregulate your own production of estrogen, but they just confuse your body in many, many different ways. So these endocrine disrupting chemicals are associated with a broad range of hormonal and other gynecological issues, including early puberty. So it is now completely commonplace in the US for girls to undergo menarche, or have their first period, between the ages of 8 and 10, as early as 8 years old. So, I mean, this brings girls into a cultural place where there are different societal pressures, different expectations that they're not ready to handle. So this is a really big problem. So early puberty, these chemicals are associated with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, which is basically an inflammation of the uterine lining, and where that endometrial lining grows into different areas of the reproductive tract, causing a lot of pain and issues with fertility. These EDCs are associated with other fertility problems, other metabolic problems, thyroid problems, reproductive cancers, such as ovarian and uterine, and even prostate cancer for men, breast cancer, and even obesity. So you might be surprised to hear me mention obesity along with all of these hormonal issues. But yes, obesity is associated with hormones. So a really brilliant doctor, Dr. Gary Taubes, I believe he said it best when he stated that obesity isn't a calorie problem, it's a hormone problem. Yet in our diet-obsessed culture, we're always trying to restrict people's caloric intake. We're trying to deprive them of certain foods, affect what they eat, or shame them for overeating, when in fact, what needs to be addressed is the hormones and the endocrine system. And often this toxicity caused by environmental toxins, or this dysregulation of their endocrine system. So remember, when I read the definition of the endocrine system, it wasn't just about hormones. It was about metabolism and blood sugar too. So the problem is that numerous endocrine disrupting chemicals find their way into your body from the time of conception throughout your whole life. Each one of us, our whole lives, and they accumulate over time. So when I talk to my clients about this, I like to use the visual of a bucket. I call it your toxic bucket. And, no one thing is going to just fill and overload that bucket. Well, I take that back. If you were to have just a drastic chemical exposure, like some, war veterans exposed to Agent Orange or something like that, that is a severe and massive toxic chemical exposure. That is less common than the small sort of micro assaults that happen to us all day, every day. So every little bit of environmental toxin, from the air you breathe to the products you use to processed foods you eat to clothes you wear and what those fabrics are treated with, all little drops in the bucket. Drop, 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 drop. Eventually, your bucket fills, and sometimes it will overflow, causing all kinds of issues from, a massive histamine response to certain cancers, to obesity, to all kinds of different conditions. And what condition you develop has a lot to do with your genetics and your predispositions. But what is the problem here isn't your genetics. It's not your family history. The problem is this constant toxic exposure that is accumulating over time. So these chemicals, as I said, come from air, soil, water. They're used in flame retardant fabrics, cosmetics, hair care, plastics, pesticides from, the foods we eat. So they're in the soil, different detergents, and other common daily use products. So this is where I'm going to educate you a little and empower you to make a couple changes that are going to change your life. Another problem is that it doesn't take much exposure to EDCs to produce a negative health effect. So when I'm educating a lot of my clients about this, the question comes up for both of us often: why the hell are these toxic chemicals legal? How is it possibly okay for them to be in so many products that we use every day with no warning labels? Actually, though, California is starting to have, the Prop 68, I think it's called, warning about lead in soil. But anyway, by and large, there are no warning labels. There's no education so that we can make the best decisions for ourselves and our family. So how is this even possible? And the answer is capitalism in the US. So it's all about the almighty dollar here in our culture. And in fact, in many European countries, in Australia, in New Zealand, in many other places, things like glyphosate or Roundup, which is the toxic pesticide sprayed on all of our crops, unless you're buying organic, or many parabens, phthalates, chemicals that we're going to talk about a little bit later. These things are illegal. These other cultures have said, hell no, we do not want our people consuming these things every day. We know the negative health impacts, and we do not want these chemicals finding their way into the bodies of our people. But because here in the US, we are much more focused on capitalism, supporting companies that can generate a ton of product for really cheap. We want things cheap. We want them convenient. Health is not at the top of our priority list, but that's what this podcast is about, is helping you make your health and the health of your family come to the top of your priority lists. So the issue is money and capitalism. And the problem here is that it's very hard to scientifically prove a causal effect of individual endocrine disrupting chemicals. So what does that mean? That means basically it's hard, if not impossible, to do a double-blind longitudinal study of this one chemical and the negative impact it has on your body. Or does this one chemical cause cancer? And the reason that is really difficult to do is because we as human beings are coming across so many different chemicals in our everyday life. This constant low level or sometimes high level exposure. There are also tons of other factors. So that scientific study that we're all waiting for, that kind of magic bullet scientific study, it's just impossible to conduct. So while we're not going to be able to conclusively, scientifically prove the harmful nature of these 80,000 different chemicals found in our environment, there are actually two chemicals that have been more closely studied and linked to toxic estrogenic effects. These are chemicals found in many everyday items, and they are BPAs, commonly found in plastics, and phthalates, also found in plasticky type items, and more often, or very often, found in personal care products. And I'm going to go into these in detail when I give you the solutions, the what you can do to solve this issue for yourself and your family. But first, I want to take a moment to kind of riff on what's the problem with this estrogenic effect, or what does this estrogenic effect really do in our body? So estrogen has many effects in our body, but in excess or the wrong kind of types of estrogen, or when your estrogens are not metabolizing efficiently, causes things like weight gain, also increasing our risk of estrogen dominant or estrogen dependent cancers like the ones that I mentioned, uterine, ovarian, breast cancer. Not to mention, also, as I spoke on earlier, this sort of crossing the wires of our body's natural hormone production. So these xenoestrogens found in BPAs and phthalates can be root causes of many different health issues. And next, I want to talk about why these chemicals increase weight gain. These chemicals, these EDCs, are why scientists are calling them obesogens. And that name obesogens means exactly what it sounds like. They increase your risk for obesity. And the reason is because these chemicals are lipophilic. What that word means is that they love fat cells. So why do they love fat cells so much? Because they are toxic chemicals that need to be eliminated from the body. But in order to eliminate them from your body, you need the power, the backing of your liver, your digestive tract, and your lymphatic system. These are your body's three main channels by which to eliminate toxins. But your liver, digestive tract, and lymphatic system can only handle so much. And yet, you keep exposing yourself accidentally to all these EDCs, from the products you're using to processed foods you're eating. And so what happens? There's too much toxic chemical. Your liver, your digestive tract, your lymphatic system can no longer process it. So what is a trusty, cushy, well-insulated place to store these excess toxic chemicals? And the answer is in your fat. So your body basically sequesters these deadly chemicals, these little mini doses of toxic chemical, into your fat cells, your adipose tissue. The problem with that is that once your fat has a hold of these, it doesn't want to let them go. It doesn't want to let them go back into your bloodstream, back into your organs, your other bodily systems. So that fat continues to sequester those chemicals. And your body, as a protective mechanism, continues to sequester that fat. So this kind of explains why some women, especially, they're dieting, they're doing all the right things, but they're not noticing the chemicals in their environment, what products they're using. So no matter how many calories they're eating, how much they're exercising, their body does not want to let go of excess fat because that fat is holding these toxic chemicals. So your body not wanting to let your fat go in this situation is actually your body protecting you. And I think that this is such a beautiful theme and a beautiful philosophy to remember, that your body is your ally. It is always trying to protect you. And in this way, your body is truly protecting you. It feels very inconvenient when you're in a body that won't lose its excess fat, but it's there for a reason. And when we can understand that, when we can understand the correct reason, the correct root cause, we know exactly what to do about it. So I think that this point is well illustrated by, if you've ever had the experience of seeing a really overweight person with so much excess adipose tissue around their middle. And I'm talking like, really morbidly obese. And maybe this is you. There's no judgment here. But when there's such an obesity and excess fat tissue that it almost seems, not like the classic, I'm doing air quotes here, human body is shaped. It kind of seems perplexing. So like, how did this person's human body do that? Again, maybe it's you or someone you love. And, our society has such a negative habit of judging this in people, saying, oh, they're eating too much fast food. They never exercise. They just sit around eating all day. They must be lazy, just of really pigeonholing and judging this in people. But actually, it's most likely this person or your own body's intelligence kicking in, trying to protect your organs from these toxic chemicals that are found in plastics, products, processed foods, even certain pharmaceutical medications, and just the world at large. So I want to just paint the picture, the bigger, broader picture of what is going on here with these endocrine disrupting chemicals and how problematic it is. But now I want to empower you and share what we can do, because there is so much that we can do. A couple simple changes. They're not necessarily easy, and they may or may not happen overnight, but they are doable, they're empowering, and they can change your life and the trajectory of your family's health. So what can we do to minimize EDCs from our bodies, from our environment? What can we do to lessen these effects like obesity, weight loss resistance, hormonal issues? Even depression can be worsened by EDCs and chemical toxicity. So the number one rule is to phase out plastics, especially single-use plastics like bottles, bags. Instead of drinking from plastic water bottles, stop buying big flats of plastic water bottles from Costco or even the gas station. Those have probably gotten hot in a storage truck and then gotten cold again. And the harmful effects, the leaching of the chemicals when the liquid gets hot and then cools off again, it just makes those BPA chemicals leach into the fluid that then you're drinking. So instead of plastic water bottles, choose a stainless steel or a glass water bottle. We love the brand Clean Canteen, and we get those water bottles for ourselves and for our kids. And, once you buy it, you have it for 10 years or more. So it's a really great investment. You can also get glass water bottles. You also want to avoid softer plastics. So those softer plastics contain more BPAs and phthalates. So avoiding anything rubbery that's not made of natural rubber or vegetable cellulose, or if it's made of silicone, that can be a little better. So things like hoses, plastic cups, cheap yoga mats. Number fives are the best choice for plastics. For things like yoga mats, I really like a bamboo yoga mat, or I recommend a brand called Prana and their natural rubber yoga mats, but you can find that on the label. So that's a really great switch to make. And a good rule of thumb is to use your nose. If you can smell that new plasticky smell, that is leaching chemicals, and you are taking in those chemical molecules in through your nose. They're going into your bloodstream and putting more little drops in your toxic bucket. So the nose knows, as they say. This next piece is really important. I am constantly astounded by the just deluge of cheap plastic crap geared towards kids, right? It's just sort of known, oh, all baby toys and kid toys are made of plastic, so the kids can't break them. But how backwards is that, that we're taking our most precious human beings and exposing them to these high levels of BPAs and phthalates, endocrine disrupting chemicals, at such a young age? So what you can do is get wooden toys for kids, or things that aren't made of plastic. We love a website called Bella Luna Toys. We also get a ton of stuff, as hand-me-downs, but just focusing more on natural materials and natural fibers. This goes for clothing too. Anything polyester, ladies, is essentially plastic. So with clothing, go for more natural fibers: wool, cotton, silk, linen, hemp. Read your labels, choose more of these things when possible. So that is number one, all these different little ways you can phase out plastics. And if this sounds overwhelming to you, I want to just wrap you in a hug, a virtual hug, and encourage you to take this one step at a time. Go back and listen to this episode and, think about maybe one new thing you can try per week or per month. Or maybe if you're like some of my clients, my Vata Pittas, Ayurvedically speaking, people with that dosha tend to just be on it. They're like, I'm phasing it out. I'm switching it all out right now. And if that's you, that is phenomenal too. Go for it. Stay inspired, make the switches, totally go for it. But if you need to do things slowly but surely as well, or instead, that is fine too. That's excellent. Just stay hopeful and make little tiny switches when you can using these tips that I'm giving you. Tip number 2. Switch to fragrance-free, natural products. So, if you're using products like most of us are that are highly fragranced, think of perfumes, think of body sprays, room sprays, Glade plugins, scented candles, laundry detergents, and fabric softeners are big ones. Again, the nose knows if you're using these heavily scented products, you're breathing in phthalates, essentially. And phthalates are petrochemicals that are kind of plastic-like, and they are some of the hugest culprits in endocrine disruption. So slowly think about switching to fragrance-free natural products. In order to help you make this switch, I love the app called Think Dirty. Think Dirty is just a simple free phone app, but you can pay for it. I do for an upgraded version. And it uses information, it uses data from the EWG or the Environmental Working Group.org. They have a database called Skin Deep that rates products on each ingredient that product contains and that ingredient safety. So it is like this wonderful treasure trove of safety information, and the Think Dirty app kind of synthesizes all of that information. But when in doubt, choosing fragrance-free is always the queen of ways to protect yourself. So get rid of the following: highly scented laundry detergents. So detergents like Gain, Tide, those Tide pods, anything that says like unstoppable or the freshness lasts for over 15 washes. What that tells you is that these are chock full of phthalates and synthetic fragrances that are just doing a number on your endocrine system. And laundry detergent, it's on your body. It's going into your bloodstream, sinking in through your epidermis, going into your bloodstream, and then, yes, being sequestered as fat and xenoestrogens in your body. So we want to eliminate those really heavily fragranced things, eliminating also things like Glade plugins, those scented candles from Glade, or other, brands like that. And one thing that I love to do instead of scented candles are burn Palo Santo or sage. Those are just wonderful, kind of like a beautiful cleansing ritual thing to do to purify and cleanse the air in your home. I like to open windows and burn some Palo Santo. It's just a great way to kind of reset, and it smells amazing. Palo Santo literally means sacred wood, and it kind of has this cedar, vanilla, like really rich, beautiful smell. You could also burn beeswax candles. So, find your favorite Amish friends or your favorite farmer's market and buy some natural beeswax candles, not paraffin wax, but beeswax candles. Paraffin wax essentially has petrochemicals in it as well. Petro means that they're based from oil and that there is just a lot of chemical processing that has to happen. And then you're burning them and then breathing them in. So choose some beeswax candles. And if you want a little fragrance in there, if you want to kind of zhuzh up your home environment, you can fragrance your own candles by just putting a couple drops of essential oil, like a lavender oil or rose oil, eucalyptus, if you want to, sort of open your bronchial passageways. If you have a cough or something, eucalyptus is really nice for that. But just use a little bit of essential oil, drop that right where the wick burns, and that's a beautiful way to scent your own candles. So brands that I trust, people ask like, oh my gosh, if I can't use anything, I can't use my Tide anymore. I can't use my perfume anymore. I can't use all these fragrance things that I love. So what can I use? And some trusty cleaning product brands that I love. So for, our laundry detergent, for our dishwashing detergent, we love Seventh Generation. It's such a great trusty brand, and I love the name. So if you're not familiar with the name or the little like parable, I guess, essentially, Seventh Generation, it comes from seven generations. When we are making our choices and our behaviors, we want to think not only about how they impact us, not only how they impact our children, and the earth, but how the impact is going to be seven generations from where we are. Our society is not thinking along these lines in terms of health and sustainability, but the line of seventh generation products tries to take this into consideration. For their laundry detergent, we love the fragrance-free in the paperboard container, but nowadays there are so many different fragrance-free, like free and clear laundry detergents available. And this is one, if you make one switch, this is what I highly recommend, because again, your laundry detergent is just going into your bloodstream via your skin and the skin of your children as well. It's huge. A lot of the time, children that have asthma, eczema, and other allergies, things improve significantly by switching to a fragrance-free laundry detergent. Other good brands, there's a cool brand called Drift, which you can find online. That is actually one of my college roommate homies, or we lived in the same dorm, not in the same dorm room, but her product line that she makes, Dr. Bronner's, is great and very trusty. A brand called Ecos. EcoVare is another one, Simple Truth Organic. So always try to find organic. And if you see on the label fragrance, skip it. A little essential oil is fine, but preferably fragrance-free, preferably no fragrance or parfum is, the fancy French way they try to list it. But basically that just means that any of those 80,000 chemicals, synthetic chemicals that are potentially harmful, could be included in that ingredients list, but they're just getting away with labeling it as fragrance or parfum. So I hope that these tips have been helpful. I hope that you feel like they've empowered you and that they have given you inspiration and not made you feel overwhelmed or judged or in any way, feeling guilty about decisions that you've made in the past. The truth is that our marketplace should not be so overly saturated with these harmful, toxic chemicals and these toxic products. These toxic products are usually a lot cheaper than healthier versions. So, of course, if you have your eye on your budget, which most of us do, we're going to be buying the more affordable option. But let this be your inspiration, your little loving push, your little handhold into making safer choices for you and your family. It is more important than you ever knew. I hope now you understand even more why it's important and why you're going to reap so many benefits from making these two choices, phasing out plastics and switching to more natural, fragrance-free products. Your endocrine system will thank you. Your children, when they're older and healthier and have not developed hormonal issues or metabolic issues, they will thank you. And I hope that you just feel empowered to make these decisions for yourself and your family. If you have any questions, I always love your feedback and your questions. Come find me on Instagram at Teeple Holistic, or email me at hello@sarahteeple.com, or tell me what you're working on. I'm super curious. How is your endocrine system doing? How are your hormones doing? Book a free chat with me and tell me how it's going and how I can help. All right, I love you. Stay tuned for next time, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, you can feel your best naturally. Just try one new thing a week that you learn here and watch your body and life transform. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, learn your dosha, get your personalized holistic plan, and live beautifully balanced, you've got to come see me at sarahteeple.com. That's SARAHTEEPLE.com. There you can learn about how to work with me one-on-one or book a free holistic chat and just tell me what you're working on. I love to hear from you and help you live your best life. So until next time, be well. Oh, and if you love this conversation, please rate and review our podcast. That really helps more people find natural healthcare options. Thanks again, and see you soon.